What's going on, everybody? Nick here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build no-brainer offers for your automation agency. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, this isn't the only process you could use, but it is my process, and it got me to over $72,000 per month with my automation agency. I'm confident that if you guys attack what I'm about to show you systematically in this video, you guys can scale way past 72K. So take what makes sense to you. If something doesn't make sense to you, if you're employing like a fundamentally different approach and you think mine's garbage, that's fine. Just take the good parts, leave the bad, and make yourself a little better because of it. Last thing is there's no gatekeeping. I just show you everything in this video because every time I've ever done this on YouTube, I tend to be rewarded disproportionately by both the algo and personally and professionally. So a big thing that I'm getting a lot of questions about right now in both my community and then on YouTube is this term leverage. What does high leverage mean? I use it all the time throughout all my course materials, throughout any blooms that I send people. And it's a very particular definition. Essentially, high leverage means that once you have a client in automation, the money that you make per additional unit of your time, like the marginal unit of your time, I believe it's called in economics, is so ridiculously high that you should be willing to do whatever it takes to land that client in the first place. And so this is a really, really important fundamental concept here. Not all industries are high leverage. I used to run a content writing company, and our content writing company would routinely sell articles for anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 cents per word on average, somewhere around there. You can imagine how if you got like one person sending you 2 articles per month and each of them are 1,000 words, that's 2,000 words times, let's just say 10 cents, that's about $200 a month, right? That is an extraordinarily low leverage industry. Automation, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. You can make a ridiculous amount of money for such a small unit of your time because the vast majority of the work that you do in this industry, you've actually done already. You've done it through the weeks and the months that you've learned how to build these systems. You've done it developing the blueprints. You've done it sort of developing the process frameworks for other people. And so essentially the reason why it's so high leverage is because you just get to like make more money per unit time with every successive client. And if you guys have just finished the introductory course on my YouTube, you'll know more than enough, as well as be armed with more than enough of the blueprints and templates and stuff like that, that you can go out and start building these very high leverage systems for clients basically from day one. Now, the issue with automation is that the systems that you can sell are actually extraordinarily diverse, and automation can be pretty expensive, right? Like it's not high leverage for no reason. It's high leverage because it's pretty expensive for the client. You know, clients might be spending $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $30, $50,000 a year, who knows, on maintaining your service, on hiring you, and then on maintaining your services as well. So a lot of the time, it's actually very difficult to get your foot in the door, which is why I always say, just do whatever it takes to get that client. Worry about the rest of it after you have them. That's exactly where what I call a no-brainer offer comes in. And what a no-brainer offer is it's a simple productized deliverable that you can fulfill for the client, one, super fast. So you can do this usually in about a week, maybe 2 weeks. 2, at really low cost. So this allows you to get your foot in the door. 3, it lets you demonstrate value very quickly. And then 4, it naturally leads into the rest of your more expensive automation services. It's sort of like naturally, organically onboards the customer and has them saying, well, now that I have this system, might as well have that one too. That's where you get them on a retainer, and that's really where the leverage starts multiplying and comes in. So what exactly is a no-brainer automation offer? I'm not like an offer expert. I'm not an offer god, right? That's why I've only gotten to 72K a month with this. There are plenty of other people out there that have added a few zeros to that number, and they're a lot better at defining offers. But what I do know a lot about is the automation industry. And so I've combined my sort of like average offer knowledge with my super deep knowledge of the automation industry. And this is essentially what I consider to be a very high quality automation offer. You need to first be able to do it quickly. Then you need to be able to do it cheaply. Then you need to minimize the risk for the client. And then bonus, it needs to logically lead into an upsell, into a retainer, into a subscription product, whatever you want to call it. Now, because automation platforms like Make.com make gratuitous use of templates, whether or not this is Zapier, whether or not this is Make, N8N, literally any platform here, but I sort of rose on YouTube through Make, so I'm going to talk about Make here. You can do this super, super easily in terms of the productized, like in terms of the fulfillment, because all you really have to do is you just take a set of templates that you've had and then you duplicate those for the new client, and then you make a couple minor little adjustments at the interface level. So meaning the end or the very beginning, right? So either you get their data in with a new trigger, or then you send the data somewhere else with like a new HTTP call or something like that in the back end. So essentially the point that I'm making is all you really have to do is just like slightly touch the outsides of these templates that you've already built. The meat and the bones of it, they're all done for you. And this is something that you don't necessarily have to even do yourself. You know, if you want to build a company doing this, you can imagine how it's actually much more cost effective for, let's say, a senior engineer or something to be developing blueprints and developing templates, and then the juniors to be actually responsible for the implementation, because they just take what's already built and then just kind of connect that like little Lego blocks to the person's company. So I have some examples down here. I've talked about the cold outreach lead gen system. It's like an end-to-end AI lead sourcing, then outreach through personalization, and then you can even do like automatic lead nurturing and stuff like that. You can find that on my channel anytime that you want. There are industry-specific CRM templates, so maybe you want to work specifically with photography companies. Well, you can easily make a photography CRM, one-click template that out, and then sell that to people as your low, simple introductory offer. Social media posting systems, that's super straightforward. I've built probably 3 or 4 of these. And then like a content generation system more generally. Maybe you want to write articles, maybe you want to write posts. The point that I'm making is, you know, if you can make a blueprint of it, you can basically productize it and then sell it as part of your offer. So, anywho, let's start diving into the 4 requirements that I mentioned above, or really the 3 requirements plus like a bonus requirement down here. This bonus requirement can make a really big difference. So while you don't need it, I'd highly encourage you to have it. So the first requirement that I mentioned was that you have to be able to do it quickly, right? You have to be able to do it fast. So, you know, in order for it to be a no-brainer, essentially, if you think about it from their perspective, a client, anytime they decide to work with a new service provider, whether it's automation, whether it's content writing, whether it's graphic design, whether it's, you know, photography, they're taking a risk on you. And in order to maximize the quality of that client, maximize the retention of that client, and et cetera, you basically need to minimize what's called buyer's remorse. Basically, you need to minimize that sort of like negative reciprocal feeling that they're expecting after they give you a little bit of money and you still haven't given them anything. This is a little bit different when you're selling a product. Like if you were selling, I don't know, some widget, maybe like a fidget spinner or something, and you're at a store and you give somebody money and then they give you the fidget spinner immediately. Well, your buyer's remorse is a lot less because you literally have it in your hands, right? But when you're doing a service like we are doing right now, it takes a lot longer to fulfill that service. And as a result, you know, buyer's remorse can be a pretty big sticking point in the industry. So you have to be able to do it fast to minimize the time between them giving you money and then them receiving that fidget spinner in their hand. In order to do this, you should generally minimize the number of steps involved in delivering your offer, which is always good practice generally, whether you're designing CRMs or project management systems or productized offers. Way too many people make systems seem way too complex. They try and break a process down into 500 steps, when realistically they could do it in 4 or 5 instead. What you should be aiming for in terms of your time is about a 1-week turnaround time, maybe a little bit less. There are some exceptions, like you can imagine how with a cold email system, a big chunk of the time that you spend delivering the service isn't actually you working on the service. You're just warming up the emails. So you could theoretically deliver the product ahead of that 1-week turnaround time and just have an understanding with them that, hey, this is now scheduled to go. Right? That way you get to minimize buyer's remorse while you also get to take into account like email warm up. You could also have different business models, or maybe you just have a bunch of emails ready to go. They're all already warmed up. And then all you do is just take a client on, redirect the domains. I mean, there's like dozens of different business models, but the goal is you should be able to turn this stuff around very quickly. What you should also do, because we're doing a service, is you should include a few scheduled progress updates to the client to provide the impression of momentum that you're pushing forward this offer very, very quickly. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you're delivering a CRM system, you know, schedule updates on day 1, on day 3, and then day 5. And then day 5 is your delivery date. Well, now the client's already had 3 touch points with you. They've gotten a bunch of positive juice. The dopamine's flowing. They're like, wow, these guys are on top of it. I can't wait to see the end result. If you were to just do nothing, get the project on and then deliver it on day 5, you're missing a lot of like additional leverage that you can build for yourself through goodwill and through the client feeling like they're a part of the process. The last thing is make sure that whatever you're doing does not actually have too much client involvement or input. If you build something that requires the client input every 5 minutes, it's just the scope of these projects and automation specifically and software development, these more complex services, they tend to blow up really fast because the client isn't always 100% on board and you have to explain what you're doing, and it just ends up being a nightmare. So if you want a introductory no-brainer offer to really crush it, you just need to make sure that it has not very much client involvement. With a cold email system, for instance, you only need a few pieces of client involvement in order to make that pie really good. You need, hey, what are the domains that we want? hey, what's the offer? And then, hey, double check this copy, but trust me, it's going to work anyway. Like, this takes maybe 10 minutes of the client's time to determine. It's not something where, you have to have them do it all throughout the process. You just do it at the beginning. Maybe you could do a form, something like that. So that's requirement number one. It's how to do it quickly. Requirement number two is that you have to be able to do it cheaply internally, because the thing is, and what I'm about to show you in a minute, is in order for this stuff to work, you have to make it not just emotionally palatable to the client. You don't just have to make them think, wow, this is so great. I can't wait to do it. You can't just focus on their heart, but you really have to focus on their mind. And you have to make this logically no-brainer. Like, you have to have them say, this appeals to the emotional problem I'm having, but this also appeals to like the literal logical issue that I'm having. When you mitigate risk, for instance, when you provide a money back guarantee, when you say that, you don't pay unless you see these results. If your internal cost of delivering this service is very high, and then you do a bunch of these, your business isn't really going to work. So you have to make sure that whatever you can do it cheaply. The good news is automation lends itself really easily to that, because usually the time that you are spending, or the money that you are spending, is either time for yourself if you're a freelancer that's fulfilling this on your own, and that time is usually really small if you're just copying and pasting templates. Or if you're hiring somebody, because you're doing templates, you could usually just hire a junior developer or something like that, junior make.com or NA10 engineer, and then pay them some pittance of an hourly rate just to have them touch up your scenario, right? Generally speaking, my recommendation, if you're solo, try and have your offer be something that you can fulfill in 2 hours. So you could theoretically do 3 or 4 of them in a day if you were willing. And then if you're delegating work, try and have it be something that you can do for less than $200. If you have a make.com developer, for instance, you're paying them $40 an hour, should take them maybe 5 hours max. Realistically, it's probably going to take them a little less than that. It's super possible if you're using templates. The term reasonable pricing depends on your market and who you're targeting, of course. But I'll give you a personal example from my agency. The cheapest templated lead gen system, that cold email system I mentioned above, was $1,300, which is definitely much on the cheaper end. I've seen people sell the same system for $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000. It took us less than 45 minutes to fulfill, and collectively as a whole company, it cost us less than $50. So even though the absolute value of this deal is quite low, right? It's $1,300. The internal cost of $50 means that, what's my math on this? 126. Though our margin on this, like our cost of goods sold essentially was like 4%, less than that. 96% gross margins is pretty damn good in any industry, let alone a service industry. So yeah, pretty stoked about that. That was a pretty fun project. But make sure that whatever you're doing, you do it cheaply, and that's just part of your core offer. If you're selling CRMs, one-click template, you can do that super cheaply. If you're selling some other hiring system or something, one-click template, you can do it pretty cheaply. Okay, the third requirement is something that if you're unfamiliar with service agencies as sort of like a model, it may be a little bit tricky for you to understand. So if you have to play this back a couple of times to really get it, then please do. But essentially, in order for this to work, your service needs to provide as little risk as humanly possible to the client. I personally like to think of my conversion rate as this formula. It's cost times ease times desire, all divided by risk. What do I mean by this? Well, if it's really, really cheap, I should have called this cheapness, or maybe, I don't know, affordability or something, but because it's sort of the opposite. But if your product is really cheap, then this number's big. If your product's really, really easy to implement, then this number's big. And if the client really, really, really wants it and it solves their problem, then this number's big, right? And if these three numbers are big, then your conversion rate's going to be high. But risk divides that. And so depending on how big your risk is, this is sort of like the biggest factor that can sort of impact your total conversion rate. Because a little bump up in this or a little bump down in this can just have a massive, massive impact later on in the line. So, I mean, I don't know. This is just a formula. You don't actually have to, like, this is an example formula. You don't actually have to use these numbers. I'm not, telling you guys to all try and be like mathematical savants and determine the cost times ease times desire times risk. But it's just a thinking tool. It's a way to mentally model how best to structure your offer. Make it affordable, make it easy to implement, make that really, really solve their problem, and then minimize the amount of risk. So, it's a very simple lever that you can pull to do the risk minimization. And let me get into the different types of risk and how you could actually do this in practice. Generally speaking, and there are many more types of risk than just this. One of my friends out here is Matthew Larson. He runs a program called 1000x Leads. He talks a lot about like the 17 or 20 or 25 different forms of risk, and he's really like figured all this stuff out. So if you guys are curious on what other ways you can break down risk, definitely check his channel out. But essentially, I like to break things down very simply, and I see risk as, I think, these 4 levers. There is monetary risk, which is the risk of the client losing their money that they are investing with you. Now, this is very, very easy to solve, and I'll talk about it in a second. There's the time risk of them wasting weeks on your service as opposed to others. This is also very easy to solve. There's like an exclusivity thing. You could easily be non-exclusive, say, hey, try 10 people out. There's the information risk, where you learn about their business and their proprietary SOPs, and then you just fuck off, right? You just disappear. And that's a big risk for a lot of people that think that their IP is super valuable and super important, which you can obviously minimize by not asking a lot of information, like I talked about. And then there's effort risk, where the client has to spend time managing your project and micromanaging you, and then that actually pulls away from all the rest of their responsibilities, which you can also very easily mitigate just by not involving the client that much and just being as hands-off as you can. So there are a bunch more, and there are different ways to frame it, right? Reputational risk is another one, but I'm not going to get into those because these are the ones that are very easy to solve just in the wording of your offer, and these are the ones that we're going to focus on. To win, you need to mitigate as many of these as you can. Note that you cannot completely eliminate risk, and if you could completely eliminate risk, you should win a Nobel Prize for sales. I don't know if they do that, but they definitely should. I want to win one. As long as you decrease all of these forms of risk as much as humanly possible, your offer is going to be solid, right? And just the fact that you are spending time thinking about what you are selling is already massive, massive advantage over basically every other service provider. The vast majority of service providers, they never think about shit like this. If you could spend just a few minutes thinking, how can I minimize the effort risk? Well, I guess I need to do X, Y, Z. Even 5 minutes can 5x your revenue over the course of the next few years. Okay, so let me actually work down and show you how I would write these offers. And you don't necessarily just have to write the offers. This is like, you could memorize these. You could say these on a sales call. You can frame these on your ad creative, whatever you want. These are just the core offers, the core ways to frame your service, or your offer, I should say. Here's some examples. For the monetary risk that I mentioned earlier, a very simple way to solve this is, hey, we'll deliver X for you, or you pay $0, i.e. you get your money back. You can phrase this however you want. We could say, we'll deliver X for you. If we don't, you're going to get 100% of your money back. You could say, we'll deliver X for you. If we don't, you're going to get 100% of your money back, plus we'll pay you $500. You could say, we deliver X for you, and until we deliver X for you, you don't pay a cent. Basically, the purpose of this is you have to be very confident in what you sell, obviously, and your ability to fulfill it. But if you make this very clear to the customer, they logically have no reason not to say yes. I mean, even you could be the worst salesperson in the whole wide world, but if you literally just say, hey, we're going to do all this stuff for free, and then even if we don't, even if we're 1% off of our desired target, we'll even give you $500 for your time. The ability to say no there is so damn hard that you're going to close deals like it's a slip and slide going straight into your bank account, right? And that's where you have to be good at your service. That's obviously where you have to be confident in what you can fulfill. But even if you're not very good at it, consider that the refund rate on projects like this might be less than 10% or something, but the impact to your conversion rate is 10 times. So, I mean, if you think about it, you're losing 10% of your profit for a 10x increase in your revenue, which is basically always worth it. So that's monetary risk. We'll talk about time risk now. Basically, the way that this works is we'll deliver X for you in exactly Y days, Y weeks, Y months, whatever time period. And our service is non-exclusive. So you bound it. You say, this isn't going to take more than this time. Also, our service is non-exclusive. So you feel free to hire 20 people here. We're going to show you that we're better, but we're not here to take up your time. We just want to be as straightforward with you as possible. And if it works for us, if it's a fit, then we'll do it. Informational effort risk, where people are divulging their SOPs and stuff like that. You could simply solve it. We don't need anything from you to start except for a 3-question type form. That type form might take 5 minutes. It might be hey, I don't know, what are you comfortable, for a cold email system, what are you comfortable guaranteeing? Could be a breakdown of your past 3 biggest customers, so you could use them for social proof during your copy. Could be, Gmail or Outlook, right? You don't need a lot of information in order to make this work. If you can get the client to give you that data in a few minutes, and it's just a simple public facing form that they fill it out on, you'll be totally fine. Now, you need to make sure that this is feasible, of course. No risk mitigation will ever be 100%. If you offer to give people your money back, as I mentioned earlier, 10% of the time, 5% of the time, whatever, you are going to have to do it. But the rate is usually much lower than you think. And then the benefit to this too is, and I mentioned this a couple of times, but Grant Cardone talks about this a lot. Like once you've gotten a customer, you're a lot more motivated to just figure it out. So even if you're not super confident in your skill or your ability to deliver your guarantee, you rest assured that if you have to give back $3,000, if you screw it up, you're not going to screw it up. You're going to figure out a way to make it work. Of course, sometimes it'll fall through anyway, but that's the mindset that you should have if you want to succeed in any agency or service-based business. You're going to figure it out. You're going to get the job. You're going to make it freaking work. And the next time you do it, it's going to be a million times easier, even if you're not very confident and even if you don't really know what you're doing. So I mentioned this monetary risk strategy about refunding 5% of your customers, but what if it increases your conversion rate of 300%? If you just do the math, 5% of 300% more deals means you'll still make 285%. So that is a no-brainer, not just for the customer, but for you. The last thing I'll talk about and the last sort of like requirement is that this will logically lead into your upsell. Remember, you're going to make the vast majority of your money through your service, not your no-brainer offer. When I say service here, I usually mean like a recurring sort of service, like a retainer product, a subscription product, something where you see the client every month. The reason why is because this is the highest leverage service. You might sell 5 of your tiny little offers at $2,000 a month and then make away with $10,000 in revenue, right? But let's hypothetically say you have a recurring service at $3,000 a month, and then the average customer lasts 6 months. 3 times 6 is 18,000. And then if you land 5 customers per month, you're now making $90,000 of revenue, not cash collected, but revenue per month. It's the exact same number of customers. It's substantially more work, of course, but it's not like 9 times the work to make 9 times the money, you know? The benefit there is you also tend to get in bed with your customers in this industry, which is what makes it so high leverage. They, one, usually don't want to lose you. You're very sticky. You know everything about their business. You basically run all their services. So there's a little bit of that risk on there. And it's like, shit, even if Nick isn't providing me the best service, I don't really know if I want to let him go, which is positive, of course, depending on how you view things. And the next is you just have so much leverage because sure, they might be the service provider and they might be good at what they do. But if they're already good at what they do and you can build a system that like multiplies what they do by 3, I mean, how else are they going to get a 300% increase in throughput without somebody like you? It's basically impossible, right? They're not going to get 300% better at their service, but you can make a system in a few moments that allows them to deliver 300% as many, right? So yeah, if you can make your offer logically lead into you providing that service, you're going to improve the rate at which people convert from your offer to your service, and it's just going to help you go very far. You're going to make a ton of money. How do you make offers lead into your upsells? Well, here are a couple examples. Let's say you're selling lead gen, which a lot of people in my community are. We just had brilliant guy Saad make $15,000, I think, in 1 month. And he went from 0 to $15,000 a month in like 35 days or something like that. The way he did it is he sold lead gen. Lead gen will naturally lead to your CRMs or project management systems or onboarding systems if you just think about it. Because now you're generating leads, but what the hell do they do with the leads, right? The whole point is, well, now we're generating you 20 leads a month, but you're kind of wasting 10 of them because you're not responding to them, you're not organized, you're not getting back to them, you're not nurturing them. So why don't we build you a CRM and then a project management system to ensure you can stay on top of that? We can do that as part of our retainer. Very, very simple sell, and a lot of people naturally see the value. Alternatively, CRM systems, they'll naturally lead to hiring you on for the automation of the service fulfillment. Or if somebody brings you on for building a CRM, it's like, that CRM's looking pretty empty. Why don't we fill it up? I have a lead gen system that I can build for you over the course of the next month or two as part of our retainer. And we can start generating 5, 10, 15, 20 leads a month to start actually using this. There are hundreds of other possible offers. I just wanted to show you those 2 examples just to give you an insight into how this works logically if you're thinking about it, right? Like what sort of related things can you sell that logically lead from your offer? Spend a few minutes, make a little whimsical board, write a little mind map on a piece of paper, and just try and see what makes sense. Okay, why don't we put it all together now? And I'll give you a couple of example offers. The very first one that seems to work very well for our industry right now is I will build you a world-class, no-risk cold email outreach system in 14 days for $1,325. We'll source 5,000 prospects for you. We'll write your campaigns for you, industry best-in-class copywriting. You'll get positive responses directly in your email inbox. You'll own everything. We're not going to have our fingers in any pie. It'll be 100% you. All you have to do is fill out a simple 3-question form. It's going to take you less than 5 minutes, and we'll do the rest. And if you don't get at least 20 leads, as I define as qualified booked meetings in your calendar, in the next 2 months, I'm going to give you all of your money back. This is an offer that works. It's an offer that I've sold. I sold it for about the same amount of money once, but I usually sell it for even more. And it works extraordinarily well. Tons of people that I know in the automation industry are making money off this. Tons of people in my community are making money off this. This is something you could literally just take and then maybe tweak a little bit for the specifics of your own service provider, however you want to what platform you want to do the cold email stuff on, or what AI you want to use to do some of the personalization, whatever. This works. People are using it right now. Here's another one. I'll build you the same photography pipeline that other $5 million a year photography companies are using to make $500K a month for just $1,225. I'll do it in 7 days from start to finish. If you're not completely satisfied by the end of it, you pay nothing, $0. We'll then migrate all of your pre-existing projects from wherever the hell they are to the new system. We'll then build documentation and record videos that train your team on how to use this. Your system will be organized, professional, high ROI. It's going to eliminate chaos. And then all you have to do is just fill out a short form, which will take you less than 5 minutes, and we'll do the rest. Again, this is something that works. It's something that I've sold. It's something that a lot of other people have sold. This is a one-click, ClickUp, Monday.com, Trello template that you just freaking copy and paste a template, essentially. Make a couple of minor changes, and then you could hire, a virtual assistant or something like that to do the migration of the projects, which may cost you $100. It's like $100 of labor for $1,225 of result. That's cheap as hell. And these are so incredibly affordable that when the time comes to pitch them on the retainer, the client won't feel like you're price gouging them or anything. They'll just think, wow, that guy delivered a lot of value for $1,300. Let's see how much value he can deliver for $3,000 a month, in which case you'll be able to deliver a ton more value because you've now provided 2 offers, which naturally lead into these other things that I'm mentioning. So super logical. You don't need all of these points. They are just selling tools, of course, but the more you have, the easier the top of the funnel is going to be. Essentially, the higher the conversion rate is going to be at the very top, and then you can optimize the bottom and stuff like that later. And then I mentioned down here that a bonus to providing guarantees is that it will force you and your team to maintain an incredibly high level of service, which is obviously super valuable. Once you get the deal, you'll figure it out no matter what. So that's that. If I could give you some closing thoughts, it would be that no-brainer offers are a no-brainer to implement if you just follow this step-by-step guide. If you take only one thing from this video, let it be this formula that cost times ease times desire divided by risk is equal to your conversion rate. That alone is going to make you a ton of money and just make you and your automation agency very happy. And aside from that, get out there and go start making some of your offers. I hope you guys appreciated this video. I had a lot of fun putting it together. If you guys like this sort of stuff, please like the video, subscribe, leave a comment down below with some suggestions or requests for future videos. I'm really diving deep into the theory of automation agencies recently because that's what a lot of people in my community are struggling with. But if you want me to do something more specific to automation or make.com or Zapier or whatever, just let me know down below. I take most of my requests from my comments. Thanks so much. Have a lovely rest of the day. Bye-bye.